So, you want to be more original. You want your ideas to stand out from the rest. You want to have something unique to say. But quite frankly, right now, your ideas suck. You just can't think of anything. You just sit there and try and come up with an original idea, but everything you come up with just feels like another repeat of what someone else has already said. Maybe you're a writer and you're trying to write a story, but it feels like every story already has been written. Maybe you want to make a unique YouTube video, but it feels like you're just making a worse version of another video that already exists. I felt this way for most of my life. I always labeled myself as an uncreative person. I felt like I never had my own ideas or unique thoughts to share with people. But eventually I was able to break free of this limiting belief. Everything started to change when I started utilizing a new thinking technique. A new technique I call connecting the dots. I slowly began to feel like I was different, like I had my own unique ideas and thoughts to share with people around me. Today I will share this concept with you, called connecting the dots, and how it can change the way you think forever. First of all, what do I even mean by connecting the dots? Well, connecting the dots is the skill of making a connection between two different topics by finding a cross point of ideas. So imagine this. When you consume, read or learn new concepts, picture it as a dot that appears in your mind. It just appears and starts floating around. But over time, as you learn and consume more and more dots start to appear and are floating around. But eventually a problem starts to arise. All of these dots are just floating around without context. They don't link to anything. When information has no context, it's useless. The difference between information and knowledge is that knowledge is information, but with context, because it's connected to other ideas. We want to connect all of these new ideas, all these dots that you're getting in your mind, to other ideas. Let's call this the web. The web is like the network of connected ideas in your mind. Just like a spider web in real life, the more connections that are made, the stronger the web is. A spider web wouldn't work very well if it wasn't connected to anything. When you connect these dots and all of your ideas, something magical happens. You have an original thought. You took two separate ideas from other people and made a connection, and that connection is your own original thought. So let's go through an example of what this actually looks like. The other day I was reading The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and there's a section in chapter 3 where he's sharing a lesson about war strategies. And in this chapter he explains the importance of knowing your enemy before battle. As a man who's technically not in war, this piece of information is interesting to me, but I'm not in the right context for it to have much meaning in my life. But I was reading it and I was trying to think of a way that I can connect the dots and make this information valuable. And I began to think about how in the past I've watched videos about self-sabotage because I wanted to know why people fall back on old habits and old ways. And then I had a light bulb moment. I made a connection in my mind. I realized that often in life you are your own enemy. And if you want to defeat your enemy, you have to know yourself. So I realized to overcome a lot of your personal challenges in life, the first step is just to learn more about yourself and what makes you tick. Why is there a part of me that wants to pull me back down in life? What motivates me to do the things that I do? Why is there a part of me that wants to just be lazy and do nothing? Suddenly I started to learn a lot more about myself, all just because I made this random connection between a book that's thousands of years old and some YouTube videos about self-sabotage. I created an original idea, a thought that was mine, and now I can make a YouTube video about this unique idea, and not many people have probably made a video about that before. After making all of these unique connections between ideas like this, it starts to create this beautiful sphere of knowledge in our mind. Eventually, after doing this for a while, you'll start to create some very unique, weird, far-fetched connections as your skill of connecting the dots improves. And the weirder and the wilder the connection is, the more unique it is to you, the more original it is. You may choose to start sharing your ideas online, and if you do, your ideas will stand out from everyone else's. The internet these days has become a bit of an echo chamber of the same ideas, with people repeating the same stuff over and over again. But if you were to make a video, it'd probably be a breath of fresh air. You don't have to share your ideas, but at the same time, what negative can come from that? Now let's talk about how you can actually improve your skill of connecting the dots. My first piece of advice is to start note-taking while you consume, read, or learn. Consuming includes watching YouTube, listening to a podcast, reading a book, basically any situation where you're absorbing information. Start to keep a digital or a physical notepad with you at all times when you're consuming. That way when you get ideas you can write it down instantly. You can put a physical notebook on your desk or put one in your bag when you're not at your desk. Something I do is I actually put pieces of paper in the back of my books like this, so that no matter where I am, if I'm reading the book, I've got somewhere to write down my ideas. This will allow you to get it down instantly without having to worry about forgetting it. There's been so many times where I've got an idea while I'm consuming, and then I've just thought, oh, I'll just remember it, and I kept watching. Then later on, I forget it, and I'm so mad at myself for forgetting those ideas. You just can't rely on your memory, especially if you're in the middle of consuming something. This started to happen so many times to me that I got sick of it, and I developed ways to write down my ideas basically wherever I am. And I actually made a video about this, so if you're interested in learning more about not forgetting your ideas, then check out that video. Not only will note-taking help you remember what you learn, but it'll help you consume more mindfully. You will begin to consume with more intent. You'll start to choose things that you know will give you good ideas, rather than consuming things that are just entertaining. My second tip for connecting the dots is to consume a larger variety of content. Now be careful, I'm not saying to consume more content. I'm more so saying consume a larger variety of content less often. This means not just learning about one topic, but many topics. If you consumed the exact same content as someone else, then how can you come up with anything different from what they do? This is where your unique personality comes into play. You can pick and choose to learn about whatever you want. Just learn about whatever you're interested in that moment. One day you might want to learn about religion, and another day photography. Recently I've been quite interested in Japanese culture, so I've been reading books like Ikigai and The Courage to Be Disliked, and The Way of the Samurai, books like that. But in the near future I might be really interested in history and learning about the ancient Romans. And when I read a different topic, I'll be definitely trying to see if I can find any connections or links back to the Japanese culture. Consuming a larger variety of content will just give you more to play with, more ideas to connect together. And it'll also give you a larger chance of making a connection that no one's ever made before. I heard a quote from a guy who said, "You can only cook with what's in the kitchen." And I think that sums it up perfectly. My third piece of advice for helping connect the dots is to download a digital note-taking app called Obsidian. I'm not sponsored or affiliated with these guys, by the way. I'm not anywhere near big enough on YouTube for that to happen. I just think this is one of the best platforms for processing and documenting your thoughts. I haven't been using it for long now, but I really wish I discovered it sooner. What sets it apart from other platforms is a feature called the graph view. This graph view literally is the web that we were talking about at the start of the video. Here's how it works in simple terms. The first thing you do is you open a note page and document your ideas as they come to you. The second thing you do is you add something called a link to your note page. A link is quite simply a link to another note page. You link two pages together whenever they have ideas that connect together. I could do this for my example earlier in the video about knowing your enemy and self-sabotage. I could write a note page about each one and then link them to the other one. Next, after linking the two notes, you can open the graph view and see the web of connected ideas. Now, after using Obsidian for a while, you can start to see how all of the ideas and topics in your mind connect together. It's a very powerful tool for your mind and processing your thinking and documenting your thoughts. Online, I've seen people call this technique building your second brain, and I can see why. It's kind of like you can see your mind and your memories and your knowledge on the graph itself in front of you. Now, I didn't explain how to use Obsidian very well because it can get kind of complicated, but that's not what this video is about today, so you can research that in your own time. By the way, if you like learning about concepts like this and you want to increase your productivity, I'm currently doing free coaching calls, but only for a limited time. So if you're interested in that, then click the first link in the description. If you implement this new thinking technique of connecting the dots, I can guarantee you'll start having more unique thoughts and original ideas soon enough. If you have any questions about this topic, then leave it down in the comments below and I'll answer it as soon as I can. Anyway, thank you for watching and I'll see you later.